Welcome to He Vibes and She Dives with
Timber.
And I am Lady Drasmin. We are your hosts on this beautiful show where we talk spirituality, higher magic, and anchoring the new now Earth timeline. We have been on this journey for a few weeks now. How are you feeling about this co-creation and unfolding?
I enjoy this a lot. I love the perspectives from both of us and our experiences, and just, I don't know. It's been fun. I've been really enjoying it. How about you?
Fun is definitely a word that can be used. It's been deeply expansive for me in how I show up in leadership. Showing up with a masculine in leadership. In my past experiences, I've been in union with them. And so this has been a really interesting reset of my perspective on leadership and my perspective of union with the masculine to show up in this leadership role, but we're not in union. Right. And that's helped me define those boundaries within myself of my energetics and how they play in the different connections and relationships that I have in my life. And it's also helped me further heal my relationship with the masculine.
That's interesting. Yeah, similar to me as well. As well as not only that, but knowing that I need to get back to making videos and speaking. And so we're helping each other find our edge of fear and just being we know we need to cross that street. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it feels really good, and it's good for both of us in many realms, in all the ways. And
so good. So good. Yeah. So grateful for you and for continuing to show up in this. I know that there have been moments in between recordings where we're just like, what the hell do we do now? After we have this really powerful talk about a topic, then it feels like, what do we share in our individual videos? But then we sit down, or at least I do, and consciousness streams through, and it's really beautiful to see the different ways that Great Spirit works through us as sovereigns when we show up alone and when we show up in co-creation, and how the energy is same and yet different.
Yeah. Yeah, because agreed.
Yeah.
Apparently words hard today, so this will be interesting for me.
Oh my goodness. So we are here again today. If you are new, welcome. So wonderful to have you here. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscribes, your donations to the channel. We split all of that between us. And for just sharing your insights, whether they're great things to hear or difficult things for us to hear, and somewhere in between. We definitely welcome all of your feedback and insight. So if you're here with us today, we would love to know, how are you in this moment? What is most alive for you in this moment? Drop it in the comments down below, and we will check out your responses and reply in due course.
Yes.
So we have another pot of delicious Mayan cacao today. Bless our ancestors for being here. I think I finally have a system down for this cacao. So yeah, let's pour a cup and then find out what our topic for the next 3 weeks is going to be.
Sounds good. Yummy cacao.
Yummy cacao.
For mind, heart, and everything else in between.
Yes.
Gratitude. How hard are they? Last week we almost burned our damn fingers off, so.
This time our lips. Oh, it's hot.
That's toasty.
It's hot.
We'll let that.
So, we connected with the goddesses over the last 3 weeks.
Holy cow.
Whew. Yeah, they definitely spanked me just a little bit and helped me see where I wasn't showing up as the goddess that I am, and have helped me recalibrate. So, deep bow, Om Jai Ma. So, I think it's my turn to pick.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, why do I feel so nervous?
Because it'd be like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, I'm confused. This side restoring the rules of something, but this side said rites of passage versus initiation.
Yeah, because I think that I was trying to read your writing.
Oh, okay.
And then you went and you're like, you know what, actually just put this.
Okay, so the topic is rites of passage versus initiation. Oh, this is good.
This is definitely more your jam than mine. So this will be really fascinating.
Oh my goodness. Rites of passage versus initiation. Where do we begin with that topic?
I'm going to let you lead this one.
Okay.
Because, and I say that because for those who know that you hold ceremony, you hold space for people, you do a lot in the community, you do a lot more than what I do. So you work with initiation, you work with all those things on a very, you have been. So
let's break down what is the difference between rites of passage and initiation from my perspective. So rites of passage for me are the inevitable transition points that all human beings experience. For the masculine, it's when he goes from being a young innocent boy to being a teen and entering manhood. And then there is the stage of life where the man becomes a father, but then further into that now steps into the elder, the sage. So for me, the rites of passage for the masculine are son, father, sage. But I can't speak much into those rites of passage because I'm A, not a man, and B, I have not had experiences of witnessing men through their rites of passage. For women, the rites of passage are from the innocence of being a young child to menstruating, becoming a mother. So that's the first rite of passage. And then from mother into matron, crone. And I've gone through all three rites of passage. I have had and I have lost children. I went through my menstruation, and then I got my first white hair, and that was like my initiation into my crone years. And that was the first time where I created a ceremony for that. Like I found the white hair on the ground, I put it in an envelope, I put it on the altar, gave like a prayer for 33 days to it, to myself, to all the grandmothers who walked before me. So rites of passage are those inevitable transition points of life that mark our maturation in consciousness. But these rites of passage aren't honored by society. And that's created a lot of fracture in consciousness. It's created a lot of boys and girls in adult bodies behaving like chillins when they're supposed to be parents or leaders or whatever. And we'll go into that in a moment. Initiation is an intentional choice, usually, to accept a role of responsibility. And I say usually because sometimes we get initiated into things that we're not expecting.
Kind of like that analogy of like creator just kicking you off the cliff because you've been standing on there looking over the edge for too long.
Right, exactly. And an example I feel could be like for a man who is meant to embrace the role of fatherhood, who hasn't gone through his rites of passage, and then he gets pushed into that initiation of fatherhood or motherhood.
That's what happened to me.
Which I believe is what happened to you, right? Like you were pushed into the rites of passage initiation of fatherhood, whether you perceived yourself to be ready or not, because your soul had signed up for that. So that's why I say initiation is usually an intentional choice to accept a certain level of responsibility. And initiations, I feel like there's this confusion around initiations are all like this spiritual and religious pomp. But I don't feel that's the case. I feel like we receive different kinds of initiations in life as we level up. Like a promotion in a job could be an initiation into a greater responsibility. An initiation could also be buying your first home. Now you've been initiated into that responsibility of owning land and being a steward to that space, right? And my personal, initiations, a lot of my initiations, because of the work that I do as a priestess, have been initiations into higher and higher levels of woman leadership and temple training and ascension code mastery. And I've gone through different initiations and gone through the different tests and trainings to level up. So I guess an initiation could be like, in human terms, be seen as a school where you're at level 1, grade 1, then you go through, your 12 grades, then you go to college, and then you can get your master's and PhD in the school of learning. So that's how I would break down the key differences between rites of passage and initiation.
I like that. Very well said.
So I would love for you to share, rites of passage for you, and what that experience has or has not been for you, and how that has affected and effected you where you are in this current now.
So I know there are men's groups out there now, like Sacred Sons and a couple other ones that do actually work with initiation. Like they allow teenage boys to start going to some of those to work with their dads and to like build that. And that is so needed in our society, because I didn't have the best. My dad was a good man. He did the best he could with what he knew how to do. But I also worked through a whole lot of trauma from what he did to me and my mom. So I didn't realize, all I knew that when I became a dad at 22, which me and my ex-wife were in the middle of breaking up. Like, we weren't together. We hooked up at a St. Patrick's Day party. And whiskey, weed, and Guinness makes a baby. Made my kid. So Duncan definitely has. Anyways, but I wasn't ready for it. I was in art school. I had one more year, and then I was going to go backpack through Europe, but they had other plans for me. Because to me, that was my initiation. That, in my mind, I had to leave my comfort and expand out in the world so I can be a better version of myself.
There we go. Thank you for bringing that up. Initiation pushes you out of your comfort. Rites of passage ease you into what is naturally yours. Thank you.
Yeah. So like for me personally, like I was like, okay, I had to quit art school. I had to get a full-time job. I had to like reshift, and then it was back in 2000. So I mean, the mindset back then was still like, oh, you have to get married, you have to get a house. That's the American way. Like that's what you do. And so that's what we did.
Thank you.
In our wedding, my ex-wife was 6 months pregnant in our wedding. We were 21. Didn't know what the hell we were doing. Scared shitless. And luckily, her family and my family, we had the support. But like the initiation, like you said, it was very much, but it expanded me in ways I never could have anticipated. Me and my son are best friends. Like, and it helped me really sit with as the years went on of like, how did my dad treat me? How do I want to treat my kid? How can I level it up so that I don't pass what I went through onto my kid? So my kid he's never seen me drunk. I never laid my hands on my kid. Like I made the conscious effort to teach him and to work with and to communicate. So I tried to like help him with his rights as he went, because I had that consciousness. But it was different,
And I feel like, this is part of what doesn't allow for preparation of initiation, is not having those rites of passage, and what can make initiation much more difficult than it needs to be. Rites of passage is a communal celebration of growth, right? And it's so important in the human experience to be validated, to be acknowledged, to be recognized, to be seen, to be celebrated. And one of the biggest mental crises, and I say that in quotes because I don't really see it as a crisis, is depression. Depression is a symptom of your inner world not matching the outer world. And the inner world is stuck because the outer world hasn't made an effort to acknowledge the changes that are happening internally. Right?
Yeah.
You go from boy or from girl to raging hormonal teenager. And in today's world, gratefully, I'm seeing the return of rites and passage, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in the collective consciousness to restore those sacred ways. The Hispanic people have quinceañeras. Some Americans do Sweet 16, but the Jewish do something. I don't know what they do, but I know they have something at the age of 13, I believe. If I'm wrong, don't quote me on this. I'm not a Jew in this lifetime. So different cultures do have, certain rites of passage, but they're seen as optional sometimes, not as integral. And for me, like part of my vision with the education temple that I'm building right now is to restore the importance of rites of passage. Because then, a boy, even if a boy hasn't been raised by his father, or his father died, or his father was just a fucking abusive asshole and is not actually a father present, or a mother, right? Like I'm saying father here, but this could also apply to a mother. Then this child has the support of the community to address these changes that are happening on a physiological level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. You all of a sudden one day you're running around in innocence, and the next day you have breasts and you have pubic hair and you have a boner, and you're just like, what the fuck do I do with all this? And instead of addressing that, what are children forced with? What are you going to be when you grow up? I'm just trying to grow right now, and I don't know what the fuck to do. How am I supposed to figure out what am I going to do when I get to college, when I grow up? And that's another part of like this distortion in our collective of like, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? I want to be empowered. I want to be kind. I want to know how to balance my checkbook. I want to know how to create a healthy meal. That's what I want to be. I want to be healthy. But children from a young age are fed with, well, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be this or that? Those aren't the skills that children need to be learning at that age. They need to be learning how to just be human and integrate their soul into the body. I feel like the first 7 years, physiologically, the first 7 years of a child's life is like just building bone and muscle.
And in indigenous cultures, they still are connected to the spirit world.
Right. Yeah. And I think it was a few episodes ago where I was talking about the placenta.
Yeah.
And how like for the first 7 years, every year you give a little bit of that placenta to the child and the mother to like heal and strengthen that connection with spirit in the human body. So it's an easeful disconnect from source. So like the first 7 years, the child is just like exploring, discovering, learning what it means to have bones and limbs. And then you start going into this transition phase from 7 to 14, where you're starting to find your voice. You're starting to find your power and your embodiment. And then around like 13, 14, the hormones come in. And now you're really starting to like, it's like you're going through these stages of growth. And children need to be taught and shown how to respond in a healthy way. And that's what these rites of passage are for. Oh, okay, you just had your first pubic hair. Let's talk about what this means. Oh, you're curious. Let's have a conversation rather than, oh, you got to wear a swimsuit. You can't, you can't be touching him there. Oh, you can't ask those questions. Oh, don't say that. When you say don't, that's a word that I really strive to not use in my language. What it does to the human mind is it challenges the mind to do what you say don't. Don't do that. That's exactly what the child is going to do. But if you encourage them, children don't want distractions. They want to be included. Because they're in this stage of exploring and discovering. And go through from 14 to 21, where you're just like finding your hormones, finding your body, learning about it itself. And then you have 21 to 28 to like integrate all of that before you are fully physiologically developed to become pregnant, to become a father, to become a responsible adult that can take care of yourselves. It absolutely gets my goat when I hear parents say, oh, I can't wait till my child turns 18 so I'm free again. You're a parent for life. And when you go through rites of passage, then you are given these teachings by your elders, but the elders are being shunted off to nursing homes. Like divorce culture is glorified in television shows, in these like legal battles, in teen pregnancy shows, like the rites of passage are so vital for communal support because we need people. And sometimes we don't have those people. Like that's one of my biggest core wounds is I've never had a family. I still don't have my own family. Like I have my people around me. I have my allies. I have my friends. But I don't even have anyone to put as an emergency contact down. And I'm in my late 30s. Because I never had that rites of passage. I never had that community that looked at me and said, oh, Aleph is now no longer a little girl with ponytails running around. She's developing. She's bleeding. Like, let's have a conversation to her. My first bleed was so traumatizing. I didn't bleed for another 2.5 years.
Wow.
That's how traumatized I was in my experience. And I'm not alone in this. Like when I host women's circles, as we're recording this, it's March 3rd. March is celebrating Women's Month, and I'm hosting a wellness fair here on March 8th. But I've dedicated my life to feminine embodiment and leadership because of what I didn't receive as a child. And then we go through the rites of passage. Once we develop, we go through different stages, and that's when things start to blend with initiation and rites of passage. You go from single to becoming a girlfriend. That's an initiation into a relationship. You go from girlfriend to fiance. That's another initiation. You go from fiance to wife, from wife to mother, from mother to like, now you're not as active of a mother because you either go back to work or your child, graduates and moves on with their lives, but you're still a parent. Now the relationship changes. There's like initiations that are happening in between these rites of passage. But those core pivotal changes of life need to be celebrated.
Agreed.
Like as a man, tell us about your experiences of, like you said, you were raised by a father who did his best, but he also had his fucking issues that he didn't deal with.
Yeah, he had his demons.
Because where did he have? Who did he have?
Yeah, and back then, it's like, and that's the problem that I know as far as like the men in the U.S. That's why I support men's groups so much, especially because we don't have a lot of good role models. Like what we see around us on TV, the music, all it is just teaching us how to be horrible human men. And so it's like, for me, it's really hard for me to find men.
Men are taught to think with their penis.
Yeah. So it's really hard for me to relate to a lot of the men, and especially with me, because ever since I was little, I was always, for some reason, ever since I was little, I was always like anti-religion. And or like things like that. So a lot of the men in my family were either hunters, religious, or they're just disconnected, or they're just doing the best they could to get through things. But either way, or there's drugs and alcohol. I never had good role models for men.
Most people in this world don't have good role models.
Because even my ex, her dad was a good man. I have nothing but love and respect for him. But I also watched him never speak and stand in his authentic power. it was always like her mom ruled the nest. Like, you know what I mean? It was very, very dominated with that. And it's like, and I saw the disharmony of that, you know?
And that's part of the rites of passage, right? Like the girls come to their female elders and are taught how to be in their feminine, how to be a woman, how to be an empowered woman. Men are taught how to take charge, how to lead.
Without controlling.
Without controlling or giving power away.
It's a delicate line, and it's like, and it's not taught a lot, and it's hard to find other men that can help. And that's why I support the men's group so much, because it's so needed today. That's why I created one, and I was like, and I support them. And I feel like I'll create another one in the future, but
that's part of why I also like, I didn't ask to be in, you know, well, actually I was asked to lead women's circles. I was literally asked by my community to lead a women's circle, and that's how I got into women's leadership, because I was literally asked. But now I'm like, this is vital to create spaces for women to come, like, just unlearn.
Yeah. And can you imagine this? Imagine you had ceremonies to where, like rites of passage, like where a young boy and a young woman. So the women in the community support that woman, the young woman, and the men do that. But then they have a third ceremony where the men and the women all celebrate both of them, and they welcome, to show them that you are surrounded by community from the masculine and the feminine, and we are here for you. We're not here to fuck you up, hurt you, harm you. Safety. Safety.
And that safety piece is so important, right? But before we can even come into community spaces, we have to feel safe within ourselves. And a lot of the women that I work with don't feel safe in their bodies because they're not supported by their community. They're not supported by their families. They're not supported by their partners. They're bleeding and they're still expected to show up as if it's any other normal day.
Yeah.
And that's literally like so fucking hard. We do it because, well, we can, but just because we can doesn't mean we want to or we should.
Seriously, how is it fair that a woman is on her bleed? Is because not every woman is the same. Like, you know, my ex-wife, like, there's like really bad cramps to where it's like, who wants to go and try to show up for a job that's just like, meh, that's just paying the bills when you're in that much discomfort? There should be we should have a society to where it's just like, we honor that time. You heal. Yeah,
be internal, be in your winter season. And that's part of like the greater vision of rites of passage that I hold with the world, and that I hope with this conversation and moving forward with our individual work and wherever we may collaborate, is really building a world where rites of passage are honored, not just in our homes, not just in our families or in our communities, but in our societal structures, where schools have an honoring ceremony, right? For when kids go from 12 to 13, like the schools provide a rites of passage ceremony. And to be clear to our audience, rites of passage has nothing to do with religion and spirituality. Rites of passage are about the psychological and physiological development of the psyche of the human experience that needs humans for its continued evolution. And I think that's a key piece that sometimes people get confused about. It's like, oh, rites of passage sounds like a ritual and a ceremony, and I'm anti-spiritual and religion. It has nothing to do with spirituality and religion. It can include facets of that based on your own cultural beliefs, but it has nothing to do with culture.
It's being a human.
It's literally about being a human.
And the journeys we go through.
As humans. As we age.
Because they celebrate the hero's journey.
Right.
Which we all go through. But it's not celebrated. It's not, yeah, that's true.
You know, and then we have these rites of passage when people retire. Like retirement is rites of passage, right? But what are we celebrating? A life of servitude? A life of mediocrity? A life of just accepting what was programmed or what we were believed to. And yay, we're retired now. We're 65, but you haven't actually enjoyed your life. You're still a toddler in a 70-year-old body at the gym talking about, this new hot chick that you got. You're not an elder. That's like, and I feel like I see this so much in both men and women, like this not knowing how to act our age. And you hear that a lot. It's like, why won't you just act your age? Why won't you grow up? Why won't you be a man? Well, I wasn't given the tools to show me how to act my age.
Yes, that's huge.
I wasn't given the tools to show me like, okay, now it's time to grow up. Here is a clear marking point celebration where, okay, we need to put all the stuffies away, maybe have 2 or 3 out, and start transitioning into different kinds of toys, into different kinds of activities, into different ways of engaging our energy in a way that really starts to bring our individual personality to life. But that's not given. And so we're seeing like a lot of disassociation from reality.
That's true. It's interesting, as a father, it's like watching my son go through his from little kid through high school. And I was always amazed at how fast he would shift from one interest to another. And it just kept shifting and shifting. And I remember like thinking not that long ago, like as adults, how many of us shift our realities like we used to when we were in high school? Like me, I remember my freshman and sophomore year, I was more jock. I was clean cut, I wrestled, I did all the things. Then my dad got sick with cancer, I had to go to work. So I had to quit playing sports. And then I ran into these people, they were like, other poor people like me, they were like working their asses off. And I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna start smoking weed and partying, but everything shifted for me. But like with my kid, it was just interesting to watch that in his own way. But my point is, like, as adults, how many of us allow ourselves to try on new personas, to try on new looks, to try on, like as adults, some of us wear the same outfit for the rest of our lives. Our
Just
looks.
Slightly disturbing.
Yes. Or like me, like, I think about haircuts and I'm like, huh? Like, I don't want to cut my hair. But like back in high school, I'd be more willing to be like, fuck it, don't grow back, I don't care.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, it may not grow back. You get closer to 50, dude. Like, enjoy it while you got it. But it's things like that.
Yeah, it is. And it's like we need to be acknowledged in our human experiencing, and I feel like that's why the rites of passage are so vital to our psychological development, because like initiation is more on that like soul level, right? Like initiations are deep. They're like, they hit you in the soul. They can alter your consciousness. So it's like we need the rites of passage to support the initiations, because we're going to go through initiations whether we like it or not.
Truth.
Death, birth, rebirth, marriage, divorce, jobs, our sense of identities continue to change in our lives. I look back to 20 years ago when I was in college, I was a crop top, tight jean, 4-inch stiletto, dancing on bar types kind of person. Can you imagine if I still dressed like that? Like I wouldn't be taken seriously in the work that I do today. So I've had to like go through evolutions and changes with how I dress and how I appear. I've had to give myself those rites of passage of like, okay, I'm now stepping into womanhood. That means, that I dress a certain way. I dress my age. And it's like, people are like, well, clothes don't have age or gender. Well, to a point they kind of do.
That's interesting you say that, because in my mind, I've been sitting with this because it's like who I am. I want to be the spiritual teacher that shows up in a fucking Metallica shirt and ripped jeans, because everyone has an idea of what a spiritual teacher is supposed to look like. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm wild, I'm crazy, I'm big and fucking loud. That's just who I am. But at the same time, I have to still remember every now and then to wear a nicer
Right.
So depending on what the event is.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
And I love that you bring that up, because then, that makes me also go into like, okay, well, spiritual leaders just wearing robes and they're just amorphous. And I wear very form-fitting clothes. People are like, I can see your shapes. Like, I literally had somebody tell me for a ceremony that I led once, they literally came to me, they're like, I can see through your dress. I'm like, and?
You like what you see?
I know, right? It's like...
Did you know you have a naked body under your clothes
I know,
too?
right? So it's like, we have to constantly like look at our perceptions of ourselves and expectations of society. And that's part of what rites of passage help with. They help us communicate with others who are in a specific phase of life that we are entering into, and see how they each show up in their individuality, and then determine for ourselves how we wish to show up in the next phase of life. It's not about just like closing the door on the past and, putting away all your childish things and not having any stuffies. That's not actually healthy. You need to incorporate play in your life every day. But it's like the sense of cultivating discernment for what is appropriate.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, there's a certain line. It's like, I'm not going to wear something that's offensive or anything like that. Like again, my sleeves cut off and I'm doing my thing, but like at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I edged my beard.
Yeah,
I
right.
cleaned up.
Yeah.
I showed up.
Like, I've gotten so much flack from, I have this like suede cow leather jacket that I wear in early spring, early fall. And I got this jacket at a clothing swap. Like, a lot of my clothes I get at clothing swaps. And I can't tell you how many times somebody has come to me and they're like, you can't consider yourself a spiritual leader and a vegan because you're wearing cow. Like, I didn't buy it. I rescued it. And what the fuck does what I wear have anything to do with who I am as a person?
Seriously, you're like, so the indigenous people that prayed for the animals, and they used all parts of them for their, like, perspective is everything.
Perspective is everything. But like, back to this conversation of rites of passage, it's so important to, if you have not received the rites of passage, it's so important to find a facilitator who can host that ceremony for you and help your psyche shift. Because that needs to happen for you to integrate in your current now experience.
And I'll share this with everybody. Like, what I recently learned too is like through meditations is like, say you feel like you've been robbed as a kid through a rite of passage. Through meditation, you can go back and work through your higher self and call, and like you can visually do a whole meditation to where you invite that age of who you were in and do that rite of passage. You can remedy that.
Yeah, you can do it by yourself too, absolutely, right? It's about creating an intentional container and giving yourself that ceremony, for lack of a better word, that you would have liked to receive at that age. And making peace with that inner child, making peace with the teenager.
Yeah. And do it in a beautiful way. Light a candle. Burn some incense.
Right.
Like put flowers. Like create an altar.
Right. Whatever you need to do. Whatever you want it to be, it's your transition. But what will really help is it's like a burial, right? It like puts to rest this disconnect between the different aspects of you, because you are now reconciling that you are both the child, the teenager, and the adult. And you're not just like, well, I have to just be an adult and I am not allowed to be ragey and want, some level of drama in my life. Like, my teenager is a sarcastic, sassy snot. Okay. Like, and I have to reconcile with, okay, I can be sarcastic and sometimes, but not in certain parts of my life, because then that's not going to show that I'm also an adult.
That's true. Yeah, because mine is anger,
right,
and smartass and very sarcastic,
right.
also.
Yeah.
And so I have to like
Yeah, my inner child is like playful and innocent and squishy and hilarious. My teenager is like an emo, raging kid in the corner, ready to like fuck the world. And the adult is like, how am I related to either of this? Right? And so like creating rites of passage for myself has helped me reconcile these different stages of my life that have brought me to this point. And in so doing, in so reconciling these different phases of my life, I am now in deeper acceptance of where I am right now, and that these aspects of my life come out sometimes and need attention. I literally had a conversation with a sister the other day, and I was telling her about some drama in my life. She's like, this is the good kind of drama you to have in life. I was like, yeah, we do need a level of drama in our life, of healthy drama in our life, to feed the teenager that thrives on dramatic bullshit.
I call that good shenanigans.
Good shenanigans, thank you. That's great, right? And so once we are able to reconcile the different stages and transitions of life that we've been through, then it makes it easier to navigate the initiations that we get pushed into. Because we know that we can tap into the child, if that's the medicine that's needed in the moment. The teenager, if that's the medicine that needed in the moment. The fucking mature adult that knows how to take care of shit, if that is needed in the moment. We know how to show up for life, for our initiations, for our growing responsibilities, for the inevitability of death, because we have reconciled and made peace with those different aspects. They're not like fragmented and living in different corners of the house, or just moved off to different parts of the world and they never see each other except on holidays when shit hits the fan.
It's kind of like creating your own inner council. You know, like
Yeah,
in my mind, in my
I love
heart,
that.
because in my mind, I create in my heart chakra a temple. And in this temple, I have seats. And so I always have a seat for my higher self, my inner child, the teenager, and my shadow self. So like we all can work together to like work on the healing that is needed.
I just had this beautiful image that came to me when you were speaking of like this pentagram, which is a 5-pointed star. It's not the symbol of the devil, people. It's just a 5-pointed star. Okay, that's what pentagram means. And the higher self, the shadow, the teen, the inner child, and the sacred sovereign adult. And your spirit is in the center. In the middle. And you're in the center. And you are the executive director who is like, all right, it's time for you to speak. What's up?
Yep. Or I'm in the middle and I have all of them hug me and we all hug each other and just show love for all aspects of ourselves that need it.
So perhaps that's a practice that, this combined practice that we invite you, especially if you've never gone through rites of passage, to really give yourself that container for the next few days, 3 to 7 days, where you draw it out on a piece of paper. Draw this 5-pointed star. If a star is too difficult for you, for whatever reason, make a circle or a pentagon shape, right? Something with 5 points. And if it helps, give these aspects of yourselves names, right? Instead of higher self, you could name it Billy. Your shadow self could be, Shaniqua. I don't know. You could give them names and sit every day for about 5 to 10 minutes and just have a conversation. Listen to what each of them have to say, and then have a group hug and move on with your day. And start to really integrate. I really like this. This could be a mastermind workshop that I could create, actually. I love it. The rites of passage in itself process or something. And this is something
I've been working on that.
Yeah, this is fucking genius, Timber. And give yourself what you didn't receive. Instead of sitting there in your depression and in the bitterness and in the resentment of, I didn't have good parents, so I'm just gonna not care. Well, you may not have had any control as a child over what was happening to you. I sure fucking shit didn't. I became an adult at the age of 6. I did not have innocence of childhood. I didn't, okay, if I'm being honest, maybe 4, but I really stepped into the role of mother at the age of 6. Then you need to do this for yourself. Not for your children, not for anyone else, but for your peace of mind.
I call it the rites of passage working through victimhood. Because
from victim to victorious.
Because it's so easy. Victimhood is so shady because it hides in crevices within ourselves that we don't even realize sometimes until like a light is shined on it and we're like all uncomfortable and we're like, what is this?
Right.
And then you're like, wait.
But we feel it and notice it in the guilt and the shame and the off feeling of not listening to our own voice. It's like, I didn't want to do this. Why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
And shame is a sign that you have displeased another for loving yourself. That's what shame is.
Yeah. And then, of course, always having grace. And
the grace piece.
Self-love and compassion. And that falls in part of that. But that's also part of the calling in all aspects of ourselves. That's all in that energy. You know, I mean, I laugh sometimes because like in the spiritual communities, I have sat in many circles and sometimes people can go on tangents of words to express something. And to a certain point, I'm like, yeah, I love that. But to a certain point, it's also just like...
We got it.
Yeah, you know, the points...
We got it.
Feels. We're good.
And that drive, that need to repeat ourselves so we're blue in the face is a sign of self-rejection.
Yeah.
You haven't accepted and acknowledged yourself. You're not hearing yourself. Usually we speak out loud what we really need to hear the most. Not always, but usually we speak what we need to hear. I know that when I find myself on loops, I'm like, oh fuck, now I'm talking to myself, aren't I?
Yeah. The last couple of weeks, the words that have been going through mine is don't take it personal. From like the 4 agreements.
I have a hard time with that one.
Me too, whether I'm driving or and it's like, and I'm finding myself getting activated and triggered and I'm like, and I've been hearing that more and more in my mind. And so I've been working on saying it over and over and breathing it in and just being like,
it's not personal.
Dude.
This is not my story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be my experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because that person cut me off doesn't mean they know me personally and they're like, screw you, I'm gonna fucking cut you off. Like, I take it personal.
Right.
And then I'm like, why am I giving my power away and allowing myself? So it's like, I've been sitting with that a lot.
So we've talked a lot about rites of passage and we've given our audience practice to tap into. If you have practices and ceremonies that you have done around rites of passage, we would love for you to share so that we can hear it, but more importantly for the community that is here to see that, we're not alone in this human experience.
Yeah.
This perception, this illusion, and I believe last week the topic was around the false leaders of the world. They've cast these illusions and created society that breeds separation, right? In like single unit homes, in the television and reality shows that are put out there, in the divorce culture that's, glorified. Like divorce lawyers are one of the top 3 paying lawyers. It's really abhorrent, actually. They make more money than teachers, which is really gross.
That's not right.
Coming back to my inner peace. Let's shift the conversation and talk a little bit more about initiations, because I feel like that's also a conversation that needs a little more merit in today's share with you.
Well, being as you lead a lot of ceremonies and stuff, I would love to hear your perspective on that first.
Okay, so initiations turn your world upside down. Rites of passage help you make sense of the world. Initiations just turn everything inside out. They really change how you perceive even yourself. They make you question your identity. They make you reevaluate your priorities. And the biggest initiation that I've gone through has been through death. The first death I experienced was at the age of 6 when my grandmother was murdered. And then a few years later, There was a baby that was killed in front of my eyes, and then I buried that baby, and there were a couple other babies that I buried, animals, little children, adults. You know, I've gone through a lot of grief in my life. So grief has been my greatest initiator into the fabric of the quote unquote fragile human experience and the impermanence of being in this human experience. And even though I've gone through so much death and I've experienced so much death and loss in my life, it wasn't until the passing of my brother 4 years ago that I was really initiated into the life, death, rebirth cycles, which I found really interesting because I was like, at that point, I thought myself like, I'm a fucking expert when it comes to loss and transition. I consider myself a death doula. And I've, done many ceremonies and held space for people transitioning from this world. But like the transition of life from this world, death is hardest on the living. And the initiation of grief and death, it eventually led me to a deeper appreciation of life. And more importantly, the force is like nitro fuel that keeps me moving forward, because life is so short and there's so much life to be lived. And with that reflection of what the initiation into death has done for me, I look at the other initiations I've gone through. When I went through let's talk a little bit about the spiritual initiations. My very first spiritual initiation with my shaman teachers was me shaving my head. And that's just not something that is done as a woman. It's not something that is done as a woman in my brown culture. Even when somebody dies in the Indian culture, the men shave their heads, the women don't. So for me to shave my head, that was a huge moment of looking at my identity. Like my literal first thought when I shaved half my head, and then the buzzer literally died halfway. So I was like rocking the half shaved haircut for a few months with like no hair on this side and like hair down to here on this side. And I had to question, am I a woman? Because I don't have hair. It was bizarre. It was absolutely bizarre. And then there were other initiations that I've gone through with vision quest journeys, with different sacrifices and celibacy, periods of celibacy. I went 7 years without drinking alcohol, 9 years without eating meat or animal products. And these are different things that I'm asked to do. What initiations ultimately have in common is they strengthen your sense of belonging within self. Because every initiation, whether it's through death, whether it's for a spiritual reason, whether it's for motherhood, whether it's entering or exiting in a relationship, they have this common thread of who are you at your core level? What are your core values? What is that pillar around from which the sovereign that is you exists and emanates? What is that unfuckwithable, unshakable core within you that is non-negotiable, that is not defined by what you've experienced in the past, what other people perceive of you? It is your core. It is what makes you an individual. It is what makes you sovereign. And so initiations for me are those experiences in life that help one determine their essence and become clear on what we leave behind when we exit the world. not the things that we make or the things that we have or even the relationships that we cultivate. It's about our relationship with self and the imprint and impact of that relationship with self that then creates the memories that we leave behind.
Well said. Well said. You know, it's fascinating because, like, for me personally, like, it's funny being in the spiritual realm my whole life, but I've never really, like, sat with initiation. Mm-hmm. The word initiation, mm-hmm. what it means. Mm-hmm. And one of my dear friends, Maitreya Wolf, is huge on initiation. Mm-hmm. Huge. Mm-hmm. And so she's been saying that, and it's been sticking with me, and I'm like, and it's been making me process what that means. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that always comes to me is having to have, from my accident, have my big toe amputated. Because it changed everything within me. Mm-hmm.
First was becoming a father, although it's like both rites of passage and initiation.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us about that.
But like, you know, like you're saying, it's like then you go back in your mind and you're like, where did those big initiations happen? Mm-hmm. And then you can start to really go play backwards and be like, that was a pivot moment in my life. Mm-hmm. That was. Mm-hmm. This one is recent, so it's huge because it humbled my warrior. Mm-hmm. You know, I always felt indestructible, unstoppable, I could do anything. And now I can't hike without a hiking stick because my balance is still shit. And I'm still in pain.
And you might be in this for a while longer.
Yeah. But it's teaching me to accept and surrender and have grace and have compassion. And to, like you said, to really do the inner work of like, well, what does it mean to be me? To be me.
Right.
Am I only known as looking like a big ass Viking who can draw?
Right. That's what initiation does.
What does it really mean?
Right? You enter the initiation of priestesshood. Well, you're going to be tested in your devotion. You're going to be tested in your commitment. You're going to be tested in your consistency. You're going to be tested in your integrity, right? Because all of that needs to be refined and purified for you to find and rediscover your essence, not the label or the role or the hat that you're wearing during a phase in your life.
Or to fall into the, how do people perceive I am? And maybe I should be that version versus who you really are.
Yeah, it's like initiation, it's like, for me, initiations are opportunities to step into your divine embodiment.
I love that.
And, you know, Jesus went through fucking initiations.
So did Buddha.
So did Buddha. And fucking Krishna and even Odin went through initiations. You know, he hung upside down from Yggdrasil for what, 12 days? And then he received the runes.
And his eye.
And his fucking eye, right? Like, you know, like initiations strip you of your perceived comforts so that you can become the embodiment of life source itself. And then it doesn't fucking matter what people think of you, what people perceive of you, because you know what is your connection with divine source creator and how you express that in your everyday life, how you cultivate that, how you strengthen that. And then eventually you reach a point where you finally figure out your spine. That's basically what it is. It's like, yeah, I've got a spine, and initiation basically like gets that spine, rips it out and puts it in front of you, and you're like, why is that bone broken? What the fuck is going on over there? Right? And then you start peeling the layers until you get your spine back in order. And then there is the integration period where you have to put the fucking spine back in the body. And that's where a lot of people get lost.
Yes.
Initiation is easy, relatively. Integration, that's
the hard.
That's where you really come into your divine embodied leadership is in the integration, because that's when you're going to have relationships in your life that fall away because they are not on that path of use. I mean, I just had this experience myself where I've asked to step into the highest level of leadership that I can be in for service to the world. And that led to a relationship that I just entered abruptly ending because he hasn't gone through those initiations that I have. So there was like a mismatch of energy. Right? And so initiations can really upset your sense of safety.
Oh, yeah, because feeling lost is a huge
sign that you're going through an initiation. Yeah, feeling lost is a big sign that you're going through an initiation.
Where shit don't make sense like it used to.
Yeah, that's a big fucking, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, because people are like, even now sometimes, you know, like last week I was definitely feeling like, what the fuck am I doing right now with all of this that I've got going on? I can barely I feel like I'm drowning. But then I was reminded by a sister of like what I have asked her. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going through the wobble right now to further stabilize. So it's like this initiation like takes you to this place of wobble. And initiation is like going through that birth canal again of the womb. But we're not babies, right? So we're expected to like continue showing up and functioning in everyday life as if, you know, our entire sense of fucking identity hasn't just been thrown out. I mean, Shakespeare said it best in Hamlet, who am I? That's what initiation at its core is who the fuck am I? Yes, I'm being initiated into priestesshood. Yes, I'm being initiated into fatherhood. Yes, I'm being initiated into not being a warrior because I don't have a fucking toe anymore. But what does that actually mean for me and who I am outside of these identities and roles and responsibilities that then feed into these roles and responsibilities? And then as you continue going through more initiations in life, your sense of self solidifies and strengthens, where no matter what happens in life, you are set. Because you know who you are and you discover more of that.
Remember who you are.
Remember who you are. That's the whole point of initiations, is to remind us that we are the expressions of the divine and we are temporarily occupying this vessel. We are temporarily taking on the role. I mean, 10 years ago, I was a medical professional. I was a phlebotomist. And I thought that's who I was. I'm like, I'm a phlebotomist and then I'm going to be a surgeon and then I'm going to die. And I'm not a phlebotomist anymore.
None of those.
I'm not any of those things anymore. But I am, and this brings me back to when we were originally, you know, at the beginning of this conversation, when kids are asked, like, what do you want to be? I want to be kind. That's what you discover in your initiations. Oh, I'm a kind person. I am resilient. I am resourceful. I am creative. I am infinite. And in this current time-space continuum for a certain period of life, I am accepting the responsibility of father, of priestess, of leader, of whatever the fuck. You know, I'm accepting that I don't have my brother in this world anymore because of this death that has happened. And I have to discover my way without this person that I thought was going to be my right-wing man for the rest of my life. He wasn't supposed to die before me. I was supposed to go way before him. But now I have to discover who I am again and reclaim my own divinity. Right? Like you went through initiation as well, in a sense, when your son left home.
I did.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole transition going from being a dad of a young kid to helping him transition into being an adult and what those roles look like, because it's totally different. And he struggled, but we had the communication. He always knew that he had support and whatnot. But you know, like for me, like my biggest actually was a year ago, a year and a half ago, when I lost within that year. Every 3 months, I lost my dad, I lost my toe, and I lost my queen. And it was just like, months in between. And it was just, and I'm like, that's why I spent all last summer here in Oregon in the rivers naked crying. Because I wasn't just crying over my relationship. I was crying over my dad. I was crying over...
You weren't a son anymore. You weren't someone's king anymore. You weren't a warrior anymore. Who the fuck are you?
I was crying because I was so lost and I was in so much pain and my heart hurt so bad. It needed to, that was the initiation. That's what I needed to. I still feel lost. And I'm still trying to figure out where I want to rebuild myself. But I'm in that rebuilding phase because I did do the processing and the initiations.
And I feel like another reason initiations happen in our lives is to push us to feel. Because we can get caught up, again, because those rites of passage haven't been honored, because we live currently in a world where emotional intelligence isn't even like acknowledged in schools. You know, what are feelings? Here's a cookie. Don't talk about them, just eat this fucking cookie. Here's a TV show. You're crying and upset, let me turn on the TV for you. You know? And I feel like these initiations force us to face our humanity. But then remember that we are still divine.
Yes.
And I've definitely noticed this, but you know, I've only been in this current timeline for 30 plus years, but I've noticed increasingly over the last few years that there's more experiences happening in the world that are pushing people out of their comfort zone to face what's not allowing their divinity to shine through.
Agreed. Which is why this medicine's even more powerful and needed. These conversations and circles and gatherings and.
So what are some practices that help you integrate, right? Because we talked about initiation, but we talked about integration as well being crucial to stabilizing the dissolution and then the rediscovery.
I used everything at my disposal, whether it's, like I said, crying naked in a river, to journaling, to paddleboarding, to going to the gym, to sitting in the men's group and sharing with brothers, or sitting with my sisters as I'm crying and they're holding me, and allowing myself to be held, to be seen, to be heard. How about yourself?
I think all of that is great. You know, it's so important for us to attract that community that can hold us while we're going through this, because it makes it less heavy. For me, you know, it's definitely taking baths, going to nature, journaling. I allow myself to sleep and rest. I was literally having a conversation with some sisters a few days ago around the question that came up at the end of our women's circle was, what is an activity that you can do this week that brings you joy? And what came to mind was sleep. I just want to fucking sleep right now. That's what's going to bring me joy. And then I immediately noticed the guilt around, like, what do you mean sleep? You got dishes to do, you got fucking emails to respond to, you got bills to pay, you got all these things to do. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm aware that I have all these things to do, but I also need joy in my life. And right now, joy for me looks like sleeping, right? So, and I love that you talk about these activities, and I fully mirror and amplify those. I love to hug trees. That's something that really helps heal me. It's like helps me reconnect with, I am of the earth, I belong here, I matter, I'm important, you know, tapping into breath. I do a lot of ritual and ceremonies, so that's something that helps me integrate is, you know, when I go through initiations, there's usually a time frame for initiations, anywhere from 21 days to 7 years. Depending on what I'm being initiated into. I just entered a 13-month initiation circle with a group of sisters. And so for me, you know, there's that ignition point. The initiation is the like launching point, but then there's the journey, right? And the journey has to be supported with daily self-care. taking a shower, keeping a clean home, tending to your plants, tending to your animals, meditating every day, journaling, giving grace is a huge key of that. Giving grace to what arises.
Yeah, because I also want to address the fact of like what will arise. Because some of those activities that I mentioned is because anger surfaces, sometimes sadness, sometimes depression, whatever is surfacing and presenting itself
needs a healthy outlet.
Needs a healthy, positive way to express itself, to be seen, felt, heard, and move through.
And I want to voice here that I work with plant medicines. I'm a huge advocate for cannabis, blue lotus, and lots of other different plant allies. I intentionally do not smoke when I'm going through big emotional clearing. Because I know my own relationship with myself and past addictions that I have, and I also respect the plant medicine, so I discourage reaching for a substance to help with processing and integrating an initiative experience in your life. That's not to say, like for you, I'm sure after your surgery you needed some pain meds, right? That's not to say if you need some medication, wean yourself off. It's more of how can you find those ways with life to help you cope so that you don't create codependency. And so that you can really discover your sense of self from that autonomy that comes from within to show up and go through that process. Yeah. And having people is really supportive, but it has to be the right people.
Agreed.
Right? Not just any XY schmojo, but like the right people. And sometimes the right people could be just someone that you meet at the bus stop. And that they just like share a story with you that
was needed.
Right? So it's about also being open to receiving the support of life, because everything that happens to you is ultimately for you, even if in that moment it doesn't feel like it.
Or makes sense.
And the other part I want to share around that is don't rush it. Don't force it. Right? Like there's this, because we live in a world that's very fast paced and instant gratification, there's this like distortion of like, oh, this is only going to take 3 days. But what if it takes longer? You can't force the fruit of a tree to be ripe before its time. And so in the same way, you cannot force the fruit of your initiative experience to be ready before it's time. You have to let it ripen, but you have to tend to it daily. And find what activities give you joy. Like meditation and journaling may support me, but for you, it might be punching a bag. Like when I was in my early 20s, and I went through a big initiation phase right after my first and last serious suicide attempt. I was in the gym 5-6 days a week for 2 hours, punching bags, doing kickboxing, lifting weights. I don't need that in my life anymore. Now I swim and sauna, right? So it's about allowing yourself to adapt to what you need per experience.
Well said.
Because maybe you've gone through an experience that, for example, like when my art career ended, I couldn't paint for a while because that shit would fucking bring me a lot of grief and sadness. So you have to allow yourself to evolve and continue to discover. And that's where that integration of that inner child and play is so important, because then you're in a space of discovering, oh, what's going to help me today? And if you find something, give it some time and effort. Don't just quit.
Yeah. And embrace, get comfy being uncomfy.
Get comfy being uncomfy and trust the process. And I know some of you are going to roll your eyes like, oh, here we go, trust the fucking... But that's really true. You have to trust that it's going to take as long as it's going to take. And even in my priestess training, when I've gone through initiations, a lot of my initiations have a time frame, and 96% of the time they're completed in that time frame. But that's because I am disciplined about showing up every single day for my integration homework. And if you are disciplined, then you can create those containers and show up consistently. And that's, again, like that self-motivation that comes when you have integrated those different aspects of yourself, because then you're not running away from your responsibilities. So do your rites of passage first, and then honor the integration of your initiation process daily.
Yeah. Well, this feels complete.
Yeah. I feel like I have said all I can on this topic today without like spiraling.
Yeah.
And repeating myself.
Yeah, feels same. Well, shall we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. So,
and my bladder would appreciate wrapping up.
Okay, let's wrap up even faster then.
My 46-year-old bladder. Good times. Talk about rites of passage.
Talk about rites of passage. Shit, body. Oh my gosh. Yes. So.
And humor.
And humor, healthy humor. Yes, laughing. Laughing is so important.
Not taking shit so serious.
Wise. Thank you. This is the last pearl of wisdom that we want to leave with you today. The Joker said it best. Why so serious? Okay, like, yes, there is times when we do have to be serious. Like, it's grown-up time, baby. But, like, find ways to bring laughter in your life.
Learn to laugh at ourselves.
Learn to laugh at yourself.
And to be,
you're wobbling. You're a wobbly warrior.
How many times do I laugh when I fall over?
I know, and
the fact that my mom named me Timber, I think that's fucking ironic and hilarious sometimes. As I'm falling, I'm like, Timber. I'm like,
and you know, for how many initiations I've gone through, my birth name means grace.
Interesting.
And it's like something that, like, yes, thank you. I know I need to have grace with myself. Thank you, mother, for naming me appropriately, you know. So it's not a name that I go by anymore, but it is still my birth name. She uses it because she has that honor. So yeah, you know, just learn how to laugh at yourself, you know. I'll leave you all with this. Are you going to cry about it? Or are you going to boss up? Do both.
Yeah.
Cry about it until you're laughing hysterically, because
guess what? We're human beings having experiences, and we're all over the place. So, like,
we are so all over the place. Nobody has all their shit together all the time.
There's not one human on this planet that is perfect.
Yeah,
but they are perfect, but they're not perfect.
Stop pedestalizing the people that you perceive are where you want to be, and recognize that where they are now means they have been where you are now. And let that inspire you.
Yes.
Let that ignite you into, wow, you know what? They're where I want to be, but they're human too.
Truth.
Thank you so much for being here. Tune in next week to hear what other insights our dear beautiful man here has on rites of passage and initiation. I really hope you speak more into your experience as a man.
I will.
In this human experience, from like boy to man, and like.
I'm definitely going to sit with that. For sure.
Yeah, and I'm gonna feel into as well, like, what are some core experiences I want to share with you about rites of passage and initiation that I haven't already covered here today. And we would love to hear from you if there is a specific initiation that you've gone through, or any highlights that you got from today's episode. We would love to hear from you. So thank you again for being here today, and until we meet again.
Sounds good.
Take care of your beautiful selves.
Thank you, everyone.